Welcoming our next speaker on board, Professor Safary Mbaleka. He is the Dean of School of Postgraduate Studies at the Adventist University of Africa, Nairobi, Kenya. April this year, he was the Director of the university's Online Education Department. He obtained a PhD in Instructional Design for online learning from Capella University, USA. He has worked with online education for 17 years in different capacities: online course designer and facilitator, Director of Online Instructional Design, and Director of Online Education. He has worked with online education in 4 continents. In 2020, he co-led the establishment of Kenya's National University Standards and Guidelines for Online Education. Going ahead and welcome him on board.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for being here during this presentation. It is a great delight for me to be speaking to you from Nairobi, Kenya, at this Digital Learning Africa Conference Summit that is going on today and tomorrow. And I hope that we are all enjoying the conference to the fullest. I come from the Adventist University of Africa, which is located just outside of Nairobi, Kenya. If you have been to Kenya, then you know where I am. If you have not, please come and join us one of these days. Today, I have been asked to talk about online education in Africa, the challenges and opportunities. Online education in Africa, challenges and opportunities. It is true that when people hear the word Africa, they think about animals and exotic places. But today, we are not going to talk about that. We are going to talk about online education. And we're not going to talk only about challenges, but we're going to talk about opportunities so that all the members of the industry, the academe who are here, will be able to capture something that we can all use together as we move into this, as we continue with the COVID-19 and as we go even beyond COVID-19. So here are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to look at online education before COVID-19, how it was like in Africa, in most parts of Africa, not necessarily the whole African continent, because this is a huge continent with more than 50 countries, but what are some of the trends that you could see easily around? And what is the impact of COVID-19 on Africa's higher education today and in the future? What are the current challenges and that we have with online education, and where are we headed? What are the opportunities that we need to invest into right now for a better future for online education on the continent? And we're going to go into how to plan online education for the post-pandemic era so that we know we can do even major things, more things after COVID-19. I want to start with one definition, and this is a definition that I came from one book that I published just a year and a half ago in the beginning of COVID-19. And here's how I define it. It's a type of education that requires teaching and learning to depend on the internet. So whenever we say online education, the internet will be involved. And for quality education, that means if we just upload our files from a computer and we put them on a platform without any proper standard guideline templates theories, it's not online education. And this is actually what has been killing a lot of spirits, I think, all over the world, and not just in Africa, where people think that online education is just, okay, oh, these are the files I used to use when I was teaching on face-to-face. Let me just copy and paste them on in a platform, online platform that is online education. It's not. It's for quality education to happen over the internet, even when the educator and the learners are separated by what? By time and also by geographic location. So this, to me, is the definition. And if you look at many other scholars, you'll find that this is an overlap of many definitions that are well known in the field of online education. So when we talk about online education, we need to have a clear distinction between three different types. The first one, what I'm talking about today, is purely online courses, online programs, online universities sometimes, where students and the faculty may never actually meet face-to-face. If they meet, it's just for either on Zoom, just briefly, or they have a residency. And so the whole class is online, or the whole program is online, and students hardly ever come on campus to take classes. What has been happening during this pandemic is virtual classes. When instead of going in the same classroom, people are meeting on the computer using Zoom the way we are doing right now. Those are virtual classes. They are not online classes. They are virtual classes because you are basically doing the same thing you were doing face-to-face by doing it in the virtual world. And so when people are teaching on Zoom, 90% of the class on Zoom, we should not really call those online classes. Those are virtual classes. And then we have blended learning. And with the COVID-19, we have come up with a new definition of blended learning, because blended learning before was face-to-face and online, blending them together. And yes, a lot of research has come to show that when you use blended learning, students learn better than online only or face-to-face only. With Zoom, what has happened, with the COVID-19, the blended part, this face-to-face part of blended learning has become the Zoom function, this Zoom dimension of learning. And that is what has become part of what is called blended learning today. So blended learning, as we know it in the COVID-19 era, it's really Zoom or Google Classroom together with online learning platform like Moodle and others that you are very familiar with. So let's look at Africa, how it was like before COVID-19. Some of these things may not apply to certain countries in Africa. And so if any of this doesn't apply to you, please bear with me. It is happening in other countries. Some of these things come from personal experience. I just got here almost 2 years ago. I was working in the Philippines, and I was called to set up the online programs, the online department of our university. And so when I got here, August 2019, before COVID-19, before we ever heard the word COVID-19, these are the things that I observed, some of the things that I observed, and those that I heard coming from other countries. Number one, I quickly realized that people had different definitions of online education. And I think from what we just talked about, you can tell that there are many different definitions, and that makes it hard for people to actually launch quality online education because they are using different definitions. Everybody thinks that their definition is right. Limited online education training and expertise, that was a serious challenge in many universities. All was lumped together in what is known as ODEL. I remember the first time when I moved here, I didn't even know what ODEL was, online and distance education, something like that. So it has so many things that are happening there. But many people, when you say ODEL, in their mind, it's online education. But if you go to the definition of online and distance education is a bigger umbrella, and underneath that umbrella, we have online education. And so all this was just called, are you doing online education? Yes, we have ODEL. But those are two different things. Other one is underneath the other one. There was a lot more of web-enhanced learning than actually online learning. So what was happening, what people were calling online education was a number of people, not everybody, was a matter of having a few things done on online platform or course management system. And then most of it is in the classroom face-to-face, but a little bit on the platform. And so that was called online education. There was a limited full online education in many countries, limited online courses, limited interest in online education because there was a lot of stereotypes, a lot of misconceptions, of course, because there was the expertise was limited. there was limited educational, there is educational technology, limited educational technology even today. I know there's progress that has been made because of COVID-19, but it is not uncommon to find a school or university where the computers that are connected to the internet are limited. That's not unusual. Limited acceptability to online education, and limited national and institutional guidelines. In fact, just in what was that? Yes, it was in 2000, halfway in 2020. I was conducted by the Commission of University Education here in Kenya, that is regulating the whole university education. I think in some universities, in some countries, it's called the Ministry of Higher Education and things like that, to set up the standards. So we worked for about 3 months setting up the standards from scratch. Well, there were some standards, but they were old because they were following the definition of number 3 of Odell. But now, quickly, people come to understand that, no, what we needed is online education, not just this huge thing, Odell, because so many other things. And so we started I worked with 2 other experts, and then we had other people who were coming to help us with that. And we set for the first time in the history of Kenya, the national standards, the evaluation, the assessment, the national assessments, that guidelines and standards and templates that are now being used today nationwide to evaluate, to accredit online programs. And this is not unique to Kenya. In fact, when we presented this, when we were done, we were told that here in East Africa, a number of countries are now starting to approach Kenya to say, hey, please help us also to set up our standards, because we didn't have standards before this. So many people were caught unprepared. And we need to change this because COVID-19 came and changed everything. All of a sudden, there was an urgent need for online education because everybody was trying to survive, and they discovered that there was no infrastructure in place. There was surge in online education appetite. Nobody said anything bad about online education anymore because this was the only thing to survive. There was a preliminary work on faculty training. There's a lot of training that has been happening lately in many universities. I've been personally invited to speak in many universities, even in the African, what is called IAU, the Association of African Universities, and many other universities who have been speaking, trying to train the faculty. Even in our university here, we ran 1 whole year of webinars that we're running, I think, first every week, and then eventually every 2 weeks, eventually it was once a month. And we had people joining from all over the world to get knowledge about online education. There was a start of online education design and standardization at national level, at institutional level, program level. Of course, there was a trial and error. And I have shared with you the Kenya's national standards for online education that we're able to set up. And I'm sure other countries have come up with this that didn't have that before COVID-19. There is now today an increasing literature on online education in Africa. So people have come to realize that indeed online education is here to stay. So we might as well embrace it and actually prepare for it, because if we don't want to do that, most likely we are going to struggle as we move beyond COVID-19. What are the challenges? Some of them existed before, others are new, but here are some of those that you find in the literature. Accessibility and digital divide is a serious issue. I remember being contacted by a newspaper to talk specifically about this. How do we give accessibility to students? Affordability is another issue because of a large population that is poor. There is a misalignment with the needs of society, and this is a curriculum issue. Of course, as we embrace online education, we should not just bring all the curriculum to the online education. Now that we can give access to education to people all over the world, let's also revamp the curriculum to make sure that it is meeting the needs of people. Irrelevant content, sometimes content is Western-centric, or sometimes it's outdated. We have a theoretical training where people finish their do not know what to actually do in the real world, and you find people in the industry struggling and complaining about what the graduates that we have. Unfortunately, we have corruption that comes from government sometimes, and it enters also in education, and that is very sad. Limited physical infrastructures, limited e-libraries, which are things that we need to run quality online education, limited educational technology and learning for the job, not for entrepreneurship. You know, one thing that always amazes me about India is that there's a lot of entrepreneurs in India. You know, people don't study to just work for somebody else. They study to try to create a new job for themselves and for other people. And this is something that really pushes development forward. So as we move forward, we need to understand that things have changed, not even just COVID-19. If you look at this table, it's not only COVID-19 that has changed, but we have been going through this change slowly, silently, but these things have been happening. And if we are educating for the future, these are the things we need to keep in mind, that we are no longer driven by clocking in from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but rather have goals, have milestones, have targets, and make sure that people meet those targets. If they meet that by 2 p.m., let them go home. I know that is something that many people wouldn't want to hear, but if we want to survive in the future, that is the kind of thing we will want to do. So it's no longer about having students the whole day in the classroom, but rather making sure that they have specific goals and information, instructions, resources, how to meet those goals. And what we're checking is the competencies, if they have met the competencies. A few things that have come up in the literature, that the global education technology market size is now anticipated to what? To reach $285.2 billion by 2027. This is one of the fastest growing businesses in the world. Digitization is increasingly penetrating the education sector with technologies used to deliver education and other things. And look at this, on average, students retain 25 to 60% more material when they study online. And later on, it says e-learning requires 40 to 60% less time to learn. So students learn more, and yet they spend less time. This came from World Economic Forum, a very, very authoritative source that we all know about. So what are the opportunities that we have out there? Number one, we have availability of online academic resources. Before, we used to struggle in Africa with lack of access. Now we have 5G, even here in Nairobi, we have 5G. 4G is almost all over Africa now. And with 4G, we can really do a whole lot of things already. And because of this, now students have access to academic resources that were not available before. Textbooks are usually expensive for developing countries, no matter where you are. But now with the online resources, people can access this at a much cheaper cost. Accessibility to online education experts with no travel. Now, I speak in many different countries while sitting right here in Nairobi. And the pandemic made it even more exciting that in 1 week I could speak easily 4 times, 4 different conferences in 4 different countries. And so now access to expertise has become easier, more affordable, wider access to student market, because now we are not recruiting from our town, from our city, from our village, but now we can recruit from the whole world by having our programs online. Delivery of online education in remote places. Students who could not access university education, now they can do that from their own remote places as long as they have some electricity and some internet connection. there's less physical building costs when we move. Well, when we integrate, let me not say when we move. When we integrate online education, we do not invest in way too many buildings. I think we all discovered that when most universities were closed down due to COVID-19, we continued running even if we had closed the doors, and so we didn't use even 25% of the buildings. The world depends right now on Africa. Those who are in business, they know that. If somebody says, let's close Africa down for 1 year, the North is going to collapse. India will still survive, but the rest of the world will probably collapse immediately. So Africa needs to grab this opportunity and push for online education. We have an opportunity to create consortia of universities for online learning so that the same class can be taught by the same different universities, and it's generated from one university. And even research and academic collaboration can happen between Africa and the West, and Africa with the East, like India and Asia at large. Africa could now collaborate with these other parts without too much cost. So what do we do to plan for the post-pandemic? I have 3 minutes before I ask you to send me your questions. Number one, we need to embrace fully online education, because by failing to prepare, you fail. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So we need to prepare for this. I remember when I first joined online education, I was back in 2004. I was in Arizona, finishing my doctorate. And at the beginning, just like the resistance we are facing in Africa right now, it was the same thing. People were saying, no, we don't like online education because people didn't know exactly what to do. But today, if you're not online in the US or in Europe, you are struggling financially. We need to invest in online education, therefore make sure our IT is strong, the academic resources are accessible online, and we have the personnel that is needed. We need to train faculty and staff in online education. And if we haven't started, please, let's try to offer at least one online education class in every program every semester. Let's explore hybrid classes and hybrid programs, and then from there we move to fully online programs. Educate society about online education so that misconceptions can be taken care of, and promote, not apologize for online education. Don't say it was just an online class. Publish more on online education so that we continue creating the knowledge about online education. Set yourself apart from the crowd. If your university is the only one that is ahead, keep going forward, because you are going to lead the field of education very soon. And be intentional in pursuing online education. It has to be intentional. It has to be part of a strategic plan of the university, of the institution, of the administration. A number of things I've talked about come from this book that I published in 2020, Planning and Delivering Quality Online Education. You can get a copy of that on Amazon. So in closing, and then we get to the questions and the comments. Number one, online education is the present and the future of education. So if you were in the field of education, we must embrace online education, because it is an opportunity, not a threat. Online education must include quality assurance, because if we just copy and paste things online, it doesn't make it online education. The beginning is always hard, but that's part of any innovation. And last, let's do online education right, because if we do it right, we are going to definitely survive even after COVID-19. Online education and learning are expected to reach 350 billion by 2025. So let's go in the front seat of online education and lead within our respective countries. Thank you so much for your attention. We will entertain some questions and comments at this point. Okay, I see one here. I don't know if it is going to be read or I should read it. MC, can you guide me on that?
Please go ahead and read the question and then answer followed by that.
All right. So here it comes. History of education was started way back in the 16th century. Now that we have moved to digitization, how different will be the outcome and what impact will it have on society and economy? You know, one thing, and I'm sure you have come across this video clip coming from, it has gone around on social media, this black guy showing that, you know, things that started a century ago have changed except education. I'm sure some of you have seen that. And it shows that education has not changed. You know, people are still sitting in a row in front of the teacher, and they're still having ABC for their grade and things like that. I'm sure many of you saw that. It's a powerful video clip that I've used several times in trainings and seminars. So what will change with online education? First of all, we are going to end this row of having people sitting in a row the whole day and everybody listening to the same thing as if they have the same need. With online education, guess what? A student is reading maybe a couple of pages and they see that, oh, this stuff, I know it. They're going to skip that. They have now power to do that. On the economy, how does this affect the economy? Now with the online education, students, I have so many examples, time won't allow us, they are able to actually get the skills that they need. During the pandemic, people have not been doing bachelor's, master's, and PhD. What they've been doing, they've been seeking certificate programs where they can just learn specific skill, get the certification, and apply for a job, and they get it. And by doing that, guess what? They get a salary, and when they have salary, they pay their bills, and the economy is going up. Let's go to the next question here. All of the cases you have made for online education is great, but the workability in most parts of Africa is in doubt. What is your projection for bringing about the workability? Yes, there's something that I wanted to mention here, but I removed it because of time, and that is the governments have to work. We have to work with the governments. Anyone who is here from the industry, we are in tech, education, and technology, or we come from academia, we need to work with the government. The government will work with the IT. First of all, the government needs to give electricity to all its citizens. And number two, they have to work with technology companies, telecommunication companies. That's what Kenya has been doing. Last year, I received a SIM card coming from the government, and I can use it as long as instructional materials, and I don't pay a single penny. And this made a huge difference for people who didn't have internet. Here at our university, we have internet 24 hours all over the campus. But in other universities, it was not like that. And so this collaboration between telecommunication, government, and academia will make things happen. If we continue to think we're going to work separately, things are not going to work. We have 1 minute, and I'll leave it to the MC.
Thank you so much, Safary, for such an amazing presentation. It was a pleasure having you on board. You were so energetic, and everybody out there enjoyed. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on board.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
The rest questions, we will email it to you so that you can go ahead and reply back to the delegates, and they can have their answers with them.
Sure. I will do that. Thank you.